Hi, everyone, and welcome to a special episode of LinkedIn on the Road. My name is Alyssa Merwin, and I lead LinkedIn's Sales Navigator business. I'm thrilled to be here today with Helen Lancaster, Chief Marketing Officer of Kerv. Helen, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you do have a unique perspective because you have been both in sales and in marketing. And what's really interesting is at the end of the day, both organizations really exist to drive growth for companies. And yet it seems that we haven't figured out how to work better together and really unlock the full potential. And I wondered if you had some thoughts about what have you learned and what are some of those opportunities?
I do have thoughts about this. It's something I think about often. And I suppose I would say it's two sides of the same coin from a sales perspective or from a marketing point of view. You know, we're going after the same thing. We support each other. And in my opinion, the best marketeers that I've worked with in my career are the ones that are completely empathetic to sales, and vice versa. I think the best salespeople I've worked in my career are completely engaged and active with the marketing opportunities available. And I would even say that as a marketeer, you know, working in demand generation roles over the years, I've known almost instantly when I meet sales leaders that I'll be working with how successful I'm going to be based on, you know, that relationship and that dynamic and how engaged they are. And my best ever experience of sales and marketing collaboration was probably about 10 years ago. And I met my sales director and he said, we're going to look at this together. We're going to look at the addressable market. We're going to define who we go after. You're going to research it for me. This is our plan. And like it was an amazing and successful collaboration. And that's the one I always think back to about how to drive success.
I love that. You know, there's something really special when you can have aligned goals and objectives.
And I think as well, I didn't mention it at the beginning, but actually to the sales and marketing alignment, I think marketing can kind of be a secret weapon to your salespeople because we can ask questions to clients that you can't ask. We can, you know, form some really nice and fun relationships with clients. And often we like to do it because we are people, you know, we like relationships and we like people. So in my current role, you know, we have some clients that I have really strong relationships with and we're doing some really cool stuff with. For example, we ask them to come in and talk about what they do or to tell us about the trends in their sectors or to run keynotes for us or to, you know, whatever it might be. And in general, people are really receptive. So it's just massively important. And it's also important as marketeers to know what's going on in the customer world. If we don't know what's going on with your customers and with our customers, you know, we can't create brilliant campaigns and content and programs. So we kind of have a responsibility to, you know, to be in front of the client as well.
Yeah, I love that. And there's no doubt that all of the facets of marketing bring together sort of the texture of a customer relationship and lens that is really dynamic and so additive to what you can learn from just a sales conversation. So I really appreciate that.
100%.
I'm curious as you think about some of the evolving dynamics in how buyers are buying differently. One of the things that we've been talking about here at LinkedIn when it comes to B2B buying and selling is that, you know, there've always been this group of their buyer groups, right? And those buyer groups have gotten larger over time. It used to be that you would, you know, if you're selling IT services or, you know, technology, you knew who the core personas were and you could market to them effectively. But in today's world, it's not just the obvious sort of target buyers. There are all of these hidden buyers that we traditionally probably haven't thought as much about and need to be tailoring different kinds of messages to. And I wondered if you could share a little bit about how, you know, you're thinking about that today, if that's evolved for you either at Kerv or elsewhere in terms of marketing strategy.
I mean, it's something we think a lot about. And I think what I would say is that the days feel kind of long gone of almost having your traditional personas in the way that we used to look at it, where you sit down in your workshop and you find your IT buyer, your customer service buyer, I don't know, whoever it might be, and you kind of put this almost a caricature up of what you think that buyer is. I think we can be probably a lot more personalized in terms of the multiple buyers, and we can be a bit more account driven. But I suppose when I think about Kerv, the rise of what was like long called the millennials now, who are in the workplace, who are decision makers, and they're just buying in different ways. So I remember like talking to one of our sales colleagues when we were doing our last round of, thinking about what we need to do to sell to these sort of more traditional buyers. And he was like, Helen, the IT managers are coming to work on skateboards. You can just like rip up what you thought about all these traditional models because, we're just talking to people in a different way. And I don't know that we necessarily have anything different in the way that we're approaching it currently, but I certainly think it's something we need to think about as we're going forward.
I love that story. It's such a great example of how some of the traditional models and ways we've thought about doing things and how it's just a different persona today. They communicate differently, they make decisions differently, they absorb information differently.
I think it's all of those things. And I do think it comes back to as well the sort of drive to be purpose-driven. And I remember seeing a presentation from these two sort of millennials, like we are millennials and we are decision makers in the workplace. And they were talking about the importance of purpose-driven brands, about transparency and about the kind of connection they want. And that really resonated with me and thought that we're actually, we're on the right track here because this is important to us, but it's important to our buyers as well.
You are customers of Sales Navigator, and we appreciate that, and thank you for the long partnership. But tell us a little bit about how that plays a role in helping to drive growth and connecting with some of these buyers that we're talking about.
Yeah, so I think when I look at Kerv, there's a couple of ways that Sales Navigator is really critical to us. And one is the business development function. So within my team, we have a small team of SDRs. So we have 5 SDRs, sales development representatives. And I did speak to them a bit about some of the new functions in Sales Navigator, and they're really using things, some of the new features in LinkedIn day in, day out in their prospecting. And I think some of our more sophisticated salespeople as well, who are doing complex sales, are living in that world and mapping out relationships and driving some of their business in that way. But to be honest, I think we have like quite a long way to go in that, and we could be making more use of some of the brilliant new features that are coming out in terms of Sales Navigator, some of the AI functionality that's coming out. And when I think back to my most successful implementations, if you like, of Sales Navigator and LinkedIn, it's been really around finding the sales heroes within the organization, which we've talked about a little bit today. The people who are sort of consistently and methodically posting, building lists, profiling, and I've seen huge success from that. And that's something I think, I would want to take into Kerv as well and like continue to find our sales heroes, because I think that's how people learn and, where we'll drive success.
Yeah, I love that. There's no question that if you can take your most successful individual contributors and sales reps, and I love that you call them the sales heroes, we might borrow that, and be able to celebrate and help to others to understand how are they creating repeatable success?
How are they doing it? And they were winning huge deals. I always remember looking back and some of the colleagues, they were winning their huge deals, and they absolutely attributed that to, the activity from LinkedIn and Sales Navigator, for example.
I think this idea that if we recognize that from a marketing lens or a sales lens, one of the most important things that our teams need to be doing is having more high quality conversations with the people that matter, then managers, I think, can start to build into weekly one-on-ones. Helen, how are you doing on building out the relationships at this core account that you need to win and expand in? And next week, let's make progress, and we'll come back in a Navigator and take a look at progress you've made. And that's sort of weekly, setting goals together and accountability. I think that's where we can really start to unlock the value that our frontline managers.
I think that's completely right. And the other thing that I think we can help with from the marketing point of view is, it's really important for us as marketeers to be nosy, in the sense of to ask questions, to find out what the stories are from our sales colleagues, and when we find out those stories, to make them a bit famous. So that's the role that we can help. We can tell anecdotes and we can share success, and I always felt like that was something that was quite powerful in the past.
Yes, and in a perfect world also, when our sales teams help us understand who matters with their accounts, those target buyers, the hidden buyers, and then we can market the right campaigns against them. I mean, that would be the holy grail.
100%.
Great. So let's talk about you for a minute.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about your leadership philosophy and how you think about how you like to lead and build teams.
Well, it's a good question, and I actually I do ask my team a bit around what they think my leadership philosophy is, whether I'm deluded about what I think it is and what they think. So I would say things like I'm going to start with fun, because in a marketing team, if all things are equal and if we have psychological safety and all the things we've been talking about, I think people really want to have fun and they want to innovate, and we want to be creative. And there are things that I think we do in abundance in my marketing team. The other thing that people fed back to me was around they like the autonomy they get and the leading from the front, but with complete autonomy. So whatever the project is, people run with it, and when they need help, they get help. I'm in it with them if I need to be, but it's kind of all yours, guys, off you go, and let's see what we can do. And then I suppose the most recent lens on that is I feel really passionate about giving back. So I run with one or two of my colleagues the Women at Kerv group that we have. So we're connecting across the business, and we're starting to get engaged, with the community on how we bring in female talent. So that's one example. We have lots of other things running, but I feel it's really important when you have a platform to, and we've been talking about it today, haven't we, to be able to use that platform to connect.
Right.
And I've thought recently about how you have different phases in your career as well, particularly as a woman, I guess. So you come in and you might have a certain set of requirements, and in your mid-career you might have a completely different set, and then as you go into late career it changes again. And I wonder if we can be a bit more helpful to our women that we connect with around whether it's mentorship or networking or connections or flexible policies or whatever the things might be as you kind of go through that career. How can we help our companies, and how collectively, we can tap into what we've got as our network to sort of help now the next generation as well.
All right, so Helen, let's wrap up with one question that we ask always at the end of our On the Road series, which is, what is one piece of just professional advice that you would give to others?
So my piece of professional advice, and just thinking about through the lens of, I suppose, women in technology, but it could be absolutely advice to men as well, is your career can go through phases, and that's cool. Don't feel that it has to be a continuous upward trajectory, because sideways moves can be, they can bring you great education. You can have experiences along the way. So if your career goes through phases, that can be a really positive thing.
I love that, and I don't think there's enough discussion of that topic. I think those sideways moves, even sometimes the moves that reduce your scope but give you a different skill set, end up being the big unlocks in our careers. And it's hard to recognize it sometimes in the moment. But I think as I reflect on my own career and so many others that I know, it ends up being the differentiators over the sort of long arc of your career, because you're so much more diversified with different experiences, life experiences, professional experiences that open up incredible opportunities.
Yeah, we're all unique, and that's what we bring to the table.
Love it. Well, Helen, thank you so much for a really wonderful conversation, and thanks for spending some time with us and sharing your wisdom.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.